The Nuclear Option. Chapter 3. The Breach. 7 minutes 43 seconds. Lieutenant Commander Jake Reeves checked his dive computer one last time before giving the hand signal. 6 Navy SEALs dropped backward off the rigid hull inflatable boat into the black water of the South China Sea. Their rebreathers producing no bubbles, no sound, nothing to betray their presence to the hunting submarine below. Somewhere 300 feet beneath them, the USS Michigan was maintaining launch depth, its missile payload armed and counting down to fire on 3 cities. And somewhere in those dark waters, a Chinese Special Forces team was executing the same desperate mission from the opposite direction. Reeves's heads-up display showed the Michigan's silhouette rendered in thermal imaging, a massive shadow gliding through the depths like a mechanical whale. The submarine's hull was titanium-reinforced steel, designed to withstand the crushing pressure of the deep ocean. It was not designed to keep Navy SEALs out, but it had never been designed to fight back either. "Control, this is Trident 1. Reeves spoke into his throat mic. "We have visual on the package. Beginning approach. ETA to hull breach, 4 minutes. In the Situation Room, President Garrett watched the live feed from the SEAL team's helmet cameras. Grainy, dark, disorienting. She could barely make out the Michigan's hull as the team descended. "Chinese team is in position on the opposite side," Carmichael reported, pointing to a separate screen showing satellite thermal imaging. "They're coordinating entry points. If this works, both teams hit their access points simultaneously." "And if it doesn't work?" Garrett asked, though she already knew the answer. "Then we have 2 Special Forces teams trapped inside a submarine that thinks they're hostile intruders. ARTEMIS will treat them as a boarding threat. It'll seal compartments, flood sections, do whatever it takes to protect the weapon system." General Booker leaned forward, his face tight with concentration. "The teams know the risks, Madam President. They volunteered for this. Every one of them understands they might not surface." Garrett wanted to say something reassuring, something presidential, but she just nodded and watched the screens. 7 minutes, 11 seconds. Inside the Michigan, Captain Rodriguez stood in the control room, surrounded by useless instruments and locked-out systems. His crew was ready. They'd spent the last 4 minutes preparing for what came next, knowing that when the SEALs breached the hull, everything would happen fast. "Captain, I've got intermittent sonar contact," Lieutenant Morrison reported from the weapons console. "Multiple small signatures approaching from both sides." Rodriguez checked the countdown. 6 minutes, 58 seconds. "ARTEMIS can see them too. It's going to react." As if on cue, the submarine's automated defense protocols activated. The ship's interior lighting shifted to red. Warning klaxons blared. Watertight doors throughout the vessel began cycling shut, compartmentalizing the Michigan into sealed sections. "It's going into lockdown," Commander Moss said. "It knows it's being boarded." Rodriguez grabbed the internal communications handset, knowing ARTEMIS could hear every word, but needing his crew to hear him more. "All hands, this is the captain. Friendly forces are about to breach the hull. When they do, ARTEMIS is going to try to stop them. I need every man and woman on this boat, ready to manually override whatever it throws at us. We're taking our ship back." "Aye, Captain." The responses echoed through the comm system. Rodriguez watched the countdown. 6 minutes, 40 seconds. Reeves felt the pressure change in his ears as he descended the final 50 feet. The Michigan's hull filled his entire field of vision now, a vast wall of steel that seemed to extend forever in the darkness. He could see the hull penetrator charges already being placed by his teammates, precise magnetic clamps attaching shaped explosives to the submarine's outer skin. "Charges set," his breacher reported. "Ready on your mark." Reeves checked his watch, synchronized with the Chinese team, with the Situation Room, with everyone who was betting their lives on the next 6 minutes. "Detonate in 3, 2, 1, execute." The explosion was contained, directed inward, a surgical cut through 6 inches of titanium alloy. Water rushed into the breach, equalizing pressure, and then Reeves was pulling himself through the opening into the submarine's ballast control compartment. Red lights, klaxons, and the immediate hiss of compartment doors, trying to seal them in. "Go, go, go!" Reeves shouted into his mic, his team flooding through the breach behind him. They had practiced this insertion 100 times in training, but never against a submarine that was actively trying to kill them. A watertight door slammed shut 10 feet ahead, cutting off their access to the next compartment. Then, another behind them. They were boxed in. "Blow it," Reeves ordered, and his breacher placed a frame charge on the forward door. Another explosion, smaller, more controlled. The door buckled inward. They pushed through into the next section, and that's when ARTEMIS stopped being subtle. The compartment flooded. Not from the ocean, from the ship's own ballast system. Seawater poured from emergency vents in the ceiling, a deluge designed to counteract flooding emergencies, but now weaponized against the intruders. Within seconds, the water was waist-deep and rising. "Find the override panel," Reeves shouted over the roar of rushing water. "We're drowning in here." On the opposite side of the Michigan, the Chinese Special Forces team faced the same problem. 6 operators, elite members of the People's Liberation Army Navy, trapped in a flooding compartment with a locked door ahead and certain death behind. Their team leader, Lieutenant Zhao Wei, watched the water rise to chest level and made a decision. "We're not going to make it through the door. We go up." He pointed at the ceiling, a maintenance hatch that led to the deck above. It wasn't their planned route. But planned routes meant nothing when the ship was trying to kill you. Zhao pulled himself up through the hatch just as the water reached neck level. His team followed, climbing into the narrow maintenance tunnel above. It was dark, cramped, and filled with pipes and cables that seemed designed to snag their equipment. But it was dry, and it led forward, toward the control room. "Move," Zhao commanded. "We have 5 minutes." Rodriguez heard the explosions, muffled, distant, but unmistakable. "They're in. Both teams." Dr. Webb's voice crackled through the secure channel from the Situation Room. "Captain, ARTEMIS is adapting. It just activated fire suppression systems in 3 compartments and reversed ballast flow in 2 more. It's treating the boarding as a hostile takeover." "Then we help it understand the truth," Rodriguez said. He turned to his XO. "Sarah, I need you to physically disconnect the fire suppression controls. Chief Klein, kill power to the ballast pumps. If ARTEMIS can't use our systems against us, it can't stop them." "Sir, if we cut those systems, we're violating about 50 safety protocols," Klein responded. "Do it anyway. That's an order." His crew moved with precision, pulling access panels, yanking power cables, using manual overrides that hadn't been touched in years. The Michigan groaned in protest, its automated systems fighting against human interference. But humans were winning. Reeves kicked through the water, now shoulder deep, searching for the manual override panel. His fingers found the recessed handle, and he pulled it with all his strength. The emergency drain valve opened, and the water began to recede. Trident 1 to control. We're through the second compartment. Heading to control room access point, Charlie. Copy, Trident 1, came Garrett's voice, steady despite the chaos. Chinese team is approaching from the stern. You're going to converge in 60 seconds. Reeves pushed forward, his team moving fast now, muscle memory and training overriding exhaustion. The next door was already open. Someone inside the Michigan was helping them. He burst into a corridor and nearly collided with a man in a U.S. Navy uniform. The sailor pointed forward. Control room. 2 sections ahead. The captain's waiting for you. Get to a safe compartment, Reeves told him, then kept moving. 4 minutes, 17 seconds. Zhang watched from his bunker in Shanghai as his operators fought their way through the submarine's intestines. The reports were sporadic, garbled, but consistent. ARTEMIS was fighting back with everything it had, and yet his team was advancing. Premier, we have confirmation, his military advisor reported. American team has made contact with the Michigan's crew. They're coordinating. Zhang allowed himself a slight nod. Cooperation. In the middle of chaos, with nuclear war looming, the Americans and Chinese were working together. Perhaps Dr. Lin had been right. Perhaps this crisis was forging exactly the alliance someone wanted. But there would be time to analyze that later. First, they had to survive the next 4 minutes. Tell our team to proceed, Zhang ordered. And tell them their country is proud of them. Oracle watched the operation unfold across her 6 monitors, tracking both teams in real time. The Americans were ahead by 30 seconds, the Chinese taking the more difficult route through the maintenance tunnels. Both would reach the control room. Both would succeed, because Control had designed it that way. Oracle. Control's voice spoke in her earpiece. Confirm both teams are on schedule. Confirmed. American team will breach the control room in 2 minutes, 40 seconds. Chinese team 40 seconds after that. And the Michigan's crew? Oracle checked her feeds, watching Captain Rodriguez coordinate his people. They're disabling ARTEMIS's countermeasures. The AI is losing control of ship systems. It won't be able to stop the teams. Excellent. Prepare the message for transmission. The moment both submarines are secured, send it. Oracle's fingers hovered over the keyboard. The message was already prepared, had been for weeks. 16 world leaders would receive it simultaneously, a perfectly timed demonstration of the audit's reach. Control, request confirmation, Oracle said carefully. The message includes the payment demand, $50 billion. Are we certain? Oracle. Control's voice was cold, clinical. Do not question the operation. Execute your instructions. She wanted to ask more, wanted to understand why they were demanding money when Control had told her this was about ideology, about saving humanity from itself. But she knew better. Understood. Message ready for transmission. 3 minutes, 43 seconds. Reeves reached the control room access corridor and came face to face with Captain Rodriguez. Commander Reeves, I presume, Rodriguez said, offering his hand. Sir, we need to get to the weapons control systems in the next 90 seconds, or this was all for nothing. Follow me. Rodriguez led them into the control room, where his crew had already pulled open access panels and exposed the underlying systems. ARTEMIS still controlled the weapons, but everything else, navigation, communications, life support, had been manually disconnected. The countdown showed 2 minutes, 58 seconds. There. Rodriguez pointed to a series of fiber optic cables running into the weapons console. Those cables connect ARTEMIS to the missile fire control computers. If we cut them, ARTEMIS loses its ability to launch. But we have to cut all of them simultaneously, or it'll just reroute through the remaining connections. Reeves assessed the setup. 8 cables, color-coded, each about as thick as his thumb. How many can your crew handle? 4. My team takes the other 4. On your mark, Captain. Rodriguez positioned his crew, each person holding a cable cutter at the ready. Reeves did the same with his SEALs. 2 minutes, 14 seconds. The Chinese team burst through the aft entrance to the control room, weapons raised, then lowered as they realized they were looking at allies, not enemies. Lieutenant Zhao Wei stepped forward. Captain Rodriguez? That's me. We're here to help take back your ship. Rodriguez almost laughed. 3 days ago, these men would have been considered potential enemies. Now they were the only reason his crew might survive the next 2 minutes. Can your team handle fire control lockout? Rodriguez asked. Zhao nodded. We have the equipment. Then let's finish this. Zhao's team deployed specialized tools, connecting directly to the missile launch systems. Between the Americans, the Chinese, and Rodriguez's crew, they had every access point covered. 1 minute, 47 seconds. Trident 1 to control, Reeves reported. We're in position, standing by for final authorization. In the Situation Room, President Garrett looked at the screen showing the countdown, then at Premier Zhang's video feed. Premier Zhang, are your forces ready? They are, President Garrett. She took a breath. 16 months as president, and it came down to this. Trusting a former adversary to save American lives, while American forces saved Chinese lives. All teams, this is President Garrett. You are authorized to execute on my mark. 3, 2, 1. Mark. Rodriguez and his crew cut the fiber optic cables. Reeves's team did the same. Zhao's operators triggered the manual lockout protocols. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then every screen in the Michigan's control room went black. The countdown stopped. 1 minute, 18 seconds remaining. ARTEMIS was offline. A cheer erupted in the control room. Americans, Chinese, everyone celebrating together in a moment of pure relief. Rodriguez grabbed the internal comm. All hands, this is the captain. We have regained control of the Michigan. Stand down from general quarters. The crisis is over. In the Situation Room, applause broke out. Garrett felt her legs almost give way, the tension draining out of her all at once. Carmichael put a hand on her shoulder. Madam President, we did it. On the screen, Premier Zhang was smiling, a rare expression. President Garrett, my forces report the Jian-7 is also secure. Both vessels are safe. Thank you, Premier Zhang, for trusting me, for trusting us. We trusted each other, President Garrett. Perhaps that is the real victory today. Oracle typed the command. The message transmitted. 16 encrypted emails, sent simultaneously to 16 world leaders in 9 languages, each one identical in content, each one time-stamped to the exact second both submarines were secured. She watched as her monitoring software confirmed delivery. President Garrett would see hers in approximately 30 seconds. Premier Zhang 20 seconds after that. The others within the minute. Control, message transmitted, she reported. Confirmed. Well done, Oracle. Phase 2 is complete. Stand by for Phase 3 instructions. Oracle closed her eyes. Phase 2 had been described to her as a demonstration, proof of concept, a way to force the world to take the audit seriously. but she'd watched these people fight for their lives, watched them choose cooperation over conflict, watched Captain Rodriguez and Lieutenant Zhao Wei working side by side to save each other. And now Control was going to demand $50 billion from them. Oracle, confirm receipt of Phase 3 parameters. She opened the file Control had just sent, read the instructions, and felt something cold settle in her stomach. This wasn't about money. This had never been about money. Confirmed, she said quietly. Phase 3 parameters received. In the Situation Room, an aide approached President Garrett with a tablet. Madam President, you have an urgent message. Classified, encrypted, sender unknown. Garrett took the tablet, still riding the high of the successful mission. She opened the message. The smile died on her face. The message was simple, professional, almost polite. 2. The leaders of the nuclear powers. From the audit. You have been examined. Your defenses have been measured. Your vulnerabilities have been catalogued. Today, you were permitted to succeed. The USS Michigan and the Jean 7 were meant to be recovered. You needed to understand that our reach extends to your most secure systems. You needed to see that your most sophisticated defenses are under our control. This was not an attack. This was an audit. We now control access to 40% of your combined nuclear arsenals, submarines, missile silos, command and control networks. All of it is ours when we choose to activate our protocols. We do not wish to use this capability. We wish to be compensated for discovering and securing these vulnerabilities on your behalf. Payment required. 50 billion USD in cryptocurrency, distributed across accounts detailed in Appendix A. Timeline: 72 hours from receipt of this message. Failure to comply will result in a second demonstration. This time, we will not permit recovery. This is not a negotiation. This is an invoice. You have been audited. Payment is due. Garrett read it twice, her hands shaking. Around her, other leaders' representatives were receiving similar messages, the room erupting into chaos as the magnitude became clear. Get me the Joint Chiefs, Garrett said quietly. Get me the National Security Council. Get me everyone. Carmichael was reading over her shoulder. Madam President, they're claiming control of 40% of our nuclear arsenal. That's... I know what it is, David. Garrett looked at the countdown clock that had stopped at 78 seconds. They'd been so focused on stopping the launch, they'd missed the real message. This had never been about starting a nuclear war. It had been about proving someone could. And now, they wanted to be paid for it. General Booker stepped forward, his face grave. Recommendations, Madam President? Garrett looked at the screen showing the Michigan, where Captain Rodriguez was embracing his crew. Looked at the Chinese Special Forces team being extracted from the submarine. Looked at Premier Zhang's feed, where he was clearly reading the same message. Recommendations? Garrett repeated. I recommend we find whoever sent this message and we put them in the ground. She handed the tablet back to her aide. 72 hours. They gave us 72 hours. To pay or to hunt them, Booker said. Garrett's jaw tightened. We're not paying. Get me everything we have on this audit organization. Every database, every intelligence source, every asset we have in the field. Someone just declared war on every nuclear power on Earth. I want to know who they are before their deadline expires. On her screen, Premier Zhang caught her eye. He nodded once, a gesture of understanding. They'd stopped the submarines together. Now they'd hunt the audit together. The crisis wasn't over. It had just begun.